I feel like I can make it. The storm is so down. And I won't go alone.
Mommy, I love her so much. She is so good to have something.
I'm on my live, baby.
Oopsie.
Give me one moment.
Can they hear me?
Yes, they can hear you. Certainly. Hey, Sky. How are you, boo? I'm on the struggle bus. I'm always on the struggle bus. But life be life in us, right? Period. That ain't nothing new. At least I'm consistently on the struggle bus. I'm consistently there. I don't be one way one day. How y'all doing tonight? Wait, why is this not showing me anything? Hey, love. Oh. I don't know if it's showing me something or not. I don't know. Hey, Ethan. How y'all doing? Y'all know what we here for. This is another live episode. Thank you, Sky, for sharing the live. This is another live episode of my Life Be Life and Podcast episode recap. Okay, this is still recapping season 1, which if you have not already, please go to the link in my bio to go subscribe to my YT channel where all my visuals are for my podcast. And also I'm on all podcast platforms, streaming everywhere. Okay. But I am still recapping season 1 as we gear up and get ready for season 2, which will be premiering on November 6th, which is a Monday. I'll drop a new episode every Monday. But yeah, right now we still recapping. So yeah, today's episode is based off of episode, let me see what number. Episode number 18. Hey, Mr. Biggs. Episode number 18. And this episode was titled, oh, thank you so much, good fella. Appreciate you. New subscriber. Pew, pew, pew. Where? I wonder is that thing. Okay, it's not here. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for pouring into me. Okay. If this is your first time here, I do this weekly Tuesday night, 6 p.m. to 7, recapping a previous recorded episode of the Life Be Life and Podcast. And tonight we are going over episode number 18, which was titled A Failure to Communicate. Okay. If y'all don't know nothing else about me, y'all should know by now. Your girl loves to communicate. I consider myself an over communicator. Okay. And so this is what I'm talking about today. And this episode was very, This episode was very eye-opening and everything. And I basically just break down how to properly communicate. My boxes are open. So if you would like to get in the box and speak on it, you are more than welcome. Okay. Life Be Life on every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on TT. Okay. Thank you, Sky Bear. I don't know how to share this live out. Anyway, I guess we ain't gonna be able to do that today. You can't over communicate. I know that's right. Okay. I'm trying to tell you. But you know, some people can't handle a person that is like overly communicative or whatever. And I get that, you know, everybody ain't for everybody. It is what it is. But, so we're going to talk about this episode and let me see what questions did I have. So here's a few of the questions. Again, the boxes are open. If you want to get in the box, you're more than welcome. And to tell me how you feel about communication and things like that. So one of the questions I asked myself during this episode was, whose communication do you value? Also, if you want to, you can write these questions down for yourself or just ask them in the midst of us talking on here today, okay? Whose communication do you value? All right? for me, whose communication do I value the most? I think it's my inner circle. It would be the people that are closest to me, that know me in all aspects of life. And when whatever they are communicating to me, I take to heart most times, right? So those people that's who's the most valuable to me, and that's whose communication I thoroughly respect, okay? Other people that don't really hold that weight in my life, it's like, why would I give you that space to... Okay, I don't want to sound... It's not that I don't value it. It's just kind of like, why would I give you that space in my life when you don't even hold a space in my life? Because some people just come into your orbit to kind of like talk down on you or push you down or whatever the situation may be. And they may have the wrong intentions, right? So you got to be careful of whom communication you are receiving and who from. Some people speak from a place of hurt and depressed mindset and all that type of stuff. And they project and can't see past their own stuff and they want to kind of put it off on you. You got to be careful with that type of stuff. So, I just use my discernment in those areas, and even with people that are closest to me, because you may have just woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, and the information that you are giving me now may not be what I need, but I do value it. So I do take my time and try to process what is being said to me, how it's being said to me, and all those things. Okay. The next question I have was, what does healthy communication look like for you? Healthy communication looks like for me, I'm gonna switch this up. Sorry. What does healthy communication look like for me? For me, healthy communication looks like healthy communication looks like for me someone who is willing to be open and honest and speak from a place of love and understanding. All of those things. It's not wrapped in ulterior motive or anything like that. It's just, okay, we're going to lay all these cards out on the table. Here's what it is. And it looks like grace, respect, honesty, and love. Absolutely, Sky. To you, yes, I totally agree. We're laying all this out on the table. And if you care enough for that person, speaking towards the respect and love, you will do your best to present it in a really, really good way to that person, right? So yeah, I think I'll answer that further into the conversation. But yeah, another question I asked was, why do we fall or fail at conveying our thoughts? Like, I feel like I'm guilty of that a lot of times. I struggle with conveying my thoughts sometimes, but other times I can kind of like get it out. But it's more so in those instances in communication. Thank you, Scott. In those instances in communication, especially in relationships with people, it could be a thing as fear holding you back from being, I don't want to say brutally, because brutally implies that it may hurt. And I don't know, in my head, I don't like to say brutally, but just being overly honest with somebody. You don't want, I don't want you to look at me differently afterwards. Or I have the fear of you being hurt by what I'm saying or not understanding what I'm saying. So I think sometimes fear holds us back and it causes us to fail to communicate properly with people, right? But you know, like I always say, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, so I can't operate in that space. I have to be honest and let you know. But I can have the understanding of where you may be, and I don't have to come at you like crazy. And in the past, old Portia probably would have been on 10, overly going there with you or whatever, instead of like, okay, this person ain't really in this place. Like, I'm really good about that now at recognizing where people are and meeting them where they are and being able to like bring myself down and be like, okay, they don't have this understanding that you do, so you can't come at them from this angle with that, right? But yeah, I feel like, and then we fear being misunderstood, right? But again, that comes to you doing the proper things that you have to do to make sure a person does understand where you're coming from, how you feel, all of those things clearly and precisely. And even if you don't know, then maybe it's not time for you to have that conversation with a person because you're not even clear about where you stand in that, right? So we want to be careful with those type of things. Thank you for joining, Carissa. Hey, Bree. Fear of a reaction or an answer, for sure. But you're doing yourself a disservice in those instances, and you don't want to do that, right? And the last question I asked myself this episode was, how do you properly communicate with others? And that's pretty much what this whole episode is me laying out some tools of do's and do nots on how to properly communicate with other people. All right. One of the ways, okay, so we're going to go down to don'ts first. All right. And if you have, and I'm pretty sure everybody will raise their hand in the chat who has encountered communication in this don't list. Okay. For sure. So the first don't I have on this list is manipulation. Okay. You should not communicate by trying to manipulate the situation. If you're unclear of what manipulation means, it is handle or control, typically in a skillful manner. It's to control or influence a person or a situation cleverly, unfairly, all of those things. Okay. So if that's the way that you feel like I have to communicate with this person by manipulating their mind to get them to do or understand or see what I'm saying or whatever, that's not the proper way to communicate. I just want to be clear. We don't ever want to manipulate another person to get across our point of view or our thoughts or whatever. All right. Another don't is exploiting someone's feelings. All right. That's not cool to, again, when I say meet somebody where they are, I mean in mindset. I don't mean because they're vulnerable that you see that as an end to, get what you want in that moment, right? You don't ever want to use somebody's vulnerability against them. It's not good, and we don't want that to happen to ourselves either, right? So we have to be very careful about how we're communicating with somebody, especially if you're used to doing such things, right? Hey, how you doing, asshole Greg? Thank you for joining. Yes.
Mommy, I learned a part. I
Okay.
point of view and Miss Connie's closet reading celebration.
Okay, we're gonna talk about it when Mommy done. Okay. All right, I'll be done in a few minutes. So exploiting somebody's feelings, that's not another way that we want to properly communicate, because nobody is going to receive. Some people do receive that as love, but they don't know that that's not what love is. So we got to be very careful about that. Another way we don't want to communicate is through emotional attachment. I don't know if you all are privy to me and Tam's my other podcast that I co-host with Tam on, called the After Party Podcast. But we kind of talked about fantasy bonds and unhealthy bonds that you have with people. You don't ever want to use that emotional attachment to communicate something, or that's the only way that you communicate that I have to use my what's a good example? So say for instance, like if I'm speaking from my experience in my marriage, because I know that you love me and you know that I love you. Hey mommy, you know that I love you. I don't ever want you to come from a place of, oh, I have this emotional attachment with you, so I'm going to always lean on this to get my point across or to get you to sway my way or whatever. Don't you love me? you said you love me, like, and then they feel obligated to you and all that. That's a form of manipulation. You're exploiting their feelings because you're telling, and that's an emotional attachment. You know they have this emotional attachment to you. It's not a healthy space to be in, and it's not okay. We have to be clear. Oh gosh, I can't do that. We have to be, I don't know why that button just popped up out of anywhere. Anyway, we have to be clear in our feelings and don't just, because, or even the babying state, right? Oh, they don't understand. It's okay. Because of that emotional attachment you have to them, but they be dog walking you and dragging you all up and down. And you just like, it's, you can't even fathom seeing yourself be another way with them because of that emotional connection you have with them. That's unhealthy communication because you're allowing certain things because of your state of mind and the attachment that you have to them. Like, that's not cool. It's not okay. All right. Another don't is gaslighting. Okay. I know that's a buzzword. It's super popular in culture right now. Everybody want to be like, I'm being gaslit. You're gaslighting me. Don't gaslight. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. But if you really did do your due diligence and research on what gaslighting is, and if you didn't, I'll give you a definition quickly. It's basically another form of manipulation. Right, Sky? It's another form of manipulation when you manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning. Okay? So it's just like so simple. This is the simplest way to understand what gaslighting is. This coaster, right? This coaster is on the table. And you know you always leave your coaster right on the table, right? And then somebody come behind you, say it's your son. And your son, you be like, hey son, where's my coasters? Because you notice they not on the table no more. And your son, unbeknownst to you, purposely moved the coasters. And instead of admitting, I moved the coasters and put them on the island, he says, I don't know, you don't keep your coasters there. What are you talking about? And then you sit back and be like, now I know I keep my coasters there, but they're not there. And he told me that I don't keep them there. So maybe he's right. It's the psychological mind games that you're using in that moment, trying to get them to believe something else. And that's not true. And it got you questioning your own sanity because you know for sure that you always leave your coasters on that goddamn table. But because this boy then came up behind you and said, nope, you don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Something wrong with you. Then you got you questioning yourself. Thank you so much, Sneakerhead Earl, for the follow. Appreciate you. Right? So that's gaslighting. Instead of admitting, I moved the coasters to over there on the island. And just saying that, they want to gaslight you and make you seem like you crazy for remembering that the coasters was on the damn table. And if somebody continuously does that, that's going to essentially drive you crazy, right? Because you're like, now, that's just the coaster. Then what if they move something else? Or what if they tell you the sky is brown today and you ain't been outside and you just believe? Like, it's just so many things they constantly build up, and it's just throwing fuel on the fire. They're gaslighting you consistently, right? Some people communicate solely like that because they may not even know, but most people know, like, I'm just gonna make her seem like she crazy so she can get out my face. And I'm saying she because, I'm a she. But also with he, I'm just gonna make it seem like this so they can go over there. But you're purposely doing something to twist with my mind, and it's not healthy for me, right? So that's not a good way to communicate, right? We don't want to be doing that. Another way we should not communicate is tied into the gaslighting. No wordplay or mind tricks. Stop trying to fool folks to accomplish the goal that you want at the end of the day. Like, that's not cool. Like, that goes in so many areas. People that play games in the dating scene all the time, you want to play these games and do this and that and thinking you playing chess and you actually playing checkers. Sir, ma'am, sit down. Stop it. Stop playing. Or then wordplay. Well, I didn't say this. I said, I'm trying to think of a word. They use wordplay and be like, I didn't mean it like that. I meant it like this. Well, nigga, this is what you said. So don't tell me now you meant it like this. I mean, it's not so simple as that type of scenario, but it's people play around all day long in your face, and you be sitting there like, what now? Am I crazy? Like, what's happening? Like, but it really be them. But they're so used to communicating with people like that, and they think it's okay. They can't never take nothing seriously. It's always mind tricks, and I don't know if anybody else don't like this, but don't you dislike when you ask somebody a question and they answer your question back with a question? And I be like, but you didn't answer the question, and then they come back with, but how do you feel about that? Like, just what's the word? Diverting the conversation or the attention from them and what you're trying to get to. That is not cool. That is not the proper way to communicate with people. But we do it all the time because we're so used to operating in that space, right? Yeah, I don't like it. Another thing that we should not do in communication is coercion. And if you're not clear on what coercion is, it is the practice of forcing another party to act in an involuntary manner by use of threats or force. It violates free will or an individual in order to induce a desired response. Baby. Now, y'all know, first of all, we be coercing these children all the time, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But for you to coerce a full-grown adult to do what you want them to do, that's not cool. We threaten, we say, oh, I'm going to take this, or I'm not going to pay your phone bill this month if you don't do what I asked you to do, or if you don't do this or do that, I ain't going to cook you no dinner, or I'm going to cut off communication altogether with you, right? Giving a silent treatment. It's by force. That is not okay. That is not the proper way to communicate. Because all you're teaching, even with children now, I ain't going to step on no toes. And also, I'm human and I'm guilty of the same thing, right? Even with children, all you're teaching them is, if you don't do this, you're going to get this. I don't know. I think it's levels to discipline, right? And I don't even want to get all off into this because that could be a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But it's like you're forcefully doing certain things. I'm just going to stick to the adults because I don't even want to get off into the kids. But you have to be careful about what you're showing people and what you're saying, when you do things like that, right? So we don't ever want to communicate by force that you have to do this, you have to do that, or I'm going to take this away from you, I'm going to take that away from you. Women are super guilty of that when they're not getting their way, or if you're not listening to them, or you're mistreating them, or whatever the situation is. I'm going to take sex off the table, right? And then men feel a type of way about that. Well, you done took sex off the table because you mad at me and you got an attitude, da-da-da. Instead of us just working through what the situation at hand is, right? Like, okay, well, I asked you to take out the trash today and you didn't take out the trash today. And that pissed me off and it made me feel some type of way because then I had to take an extra step in my day to go take out the trash on top of all the other things I had to do. And I just asked you to do a simple task and you couldn't do it. So I just communicated that, right? That's how I felt. That was my raw emotion, my raw feelings, everything like that. But I don't have to use that like, oh, you didn't take out the trash? Okay, cool, bet. I bet you I can get you to do what I want you to do. I bet you I can, you know what I'm saying? How about I don't give you no sex? How about I don't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I compared it to the children earlier, and again, I'm not going to step into the children's side, but it's like, You have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with that. You never want to coerce somebody to move the way that you want them to move by force or by threats. Like, if you don't do this for me, then I'm not going to do that for you. Like, what are we talking about? Like, we full grown adults. We should be able to speak with each other. And again, it could be raw emotions. I'm high on my emotions right now. Like I said before, when I used to be high on my emotions, I used to be scared. Y'all hear me now. I talk loud. Your girl always has talk loud. My mama talk loud. My brother talk loud. I come from a loud family. That's just how we talk. And that's off-putting sometimes to some people because they're like, why you screaming? Why you yelling? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, that's just how I talk, right? But I also know how to bring it down in certain settings, right? So you have to be cognizant of things like that. But when in the past, when I used to be very upset and very high in my emotions, I can go there. I'll be up in the rafters singing soprano, going off, screaming to the top of my lungs. That's not an effective way to communicate because most people are going to look at you like you crazy. Ma'am, I ain't heard nothing you said because you up here in your emotions. But what I may have been trying to convey and communicate may have been true about how I felt. But you have to check your tone and you have to bring yourself down. And even though now me being high on my emotions, this may be my volume that I'm at still, but I'm letting you know flat out right, like, hey, that made me feel like this and this and that. When you do things like this, it makes me feel unsafe. It makes me feel unseen. It makes me feel like you don't care. Instead of me, bet, you got the right one. Nigga got that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't got to do all... We ain't got to do all of that to get the point across. And men are guilty of it too. Instead of, you know what I'm saying, telling me, hey, listen, when you do stuff like that, that makes me feel like you don't respect me. You don't respect my positioning, this and this and that. I don't like that type of stuff. It triggers me. It makes, like, it's better ways to communicate if we just take our time, process how we feel, and then bring it to that person, right? But we do it even in joking ways in our friendships and things like that. Like, oh, okay, if you don't give me no gas money, I ain't gonna give you no ride. And it's a threat, low key. Like, I bet y'all won't give you no ride again. Like, what are we talking about? Like, why do you think that's okay? It's not okay to coerce people to do what you want them to do because, again, it's not going to come from a genuine place. I now feel threatened. I feel forced. And I know, like, okay, this person feels this way. But instead of you just telling me when you don't give me gas money and you know I'm already struggling and I'm trying to make ends meet and you asking me to do you this and that, like, I would just appreciate it if you cared enough to do this for me or, you know, whatever. I think it would come from a more empathetic place and that can, you know, pull that person in like, man, I didn't know it was that big of a deal to you. I'm so sorry. Next time, I don't mind giving you the 5. You know, that could be a situation squashed in an instance, but we be so defensive in all that we do because that's a learned behavior. We've learned to be defensive all the time and kind of like the world is out to get you. And I understand that the world essentially is out to get you, but also you have to have things in place to combat these things because everybody ain't bad. Everybody ain't evil. Everybody ain't trying to attack you and all that type of stuff. And just like you may have grown up in a situation and didn't know how to fully or positively communicate, they may have too. So y'all both like bumping heads and working against each other, but it's the willingness and the openness that you have to be able to understand each other and meet each other where you are, right? So thank you so much, Sky. Appreciate you, love. So yeah, another don't is no blame game or finger pointing. I think I already kind of spoke towards that, right? Something I can't stand is that tit for tat ish. Don't tit for tat me. Do not. Because again, I could have woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or maybe something happened. I may have had a bad day at work, and now I'm over here in my feelings, and you came to me and had a request or whatever, and I was like, yeah, whatever. You go cook the food. I ain't cooking it tonight. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in a mood, right? I'm not excusing my behavior. I want to be clear. I'm not excusing my behavior by me just dismissing you and saying you go do it, right? But then later on, you do that or whatever. And later on, when I ask you, now that I got myself together, right? Now I'm coming to you and I'm like, can you massage my back? Can you do something for me real quick? Good, just won't taste as good. Exactly. Exactly. Uh But then I ask you to do something for me, simple as, can you run my bath water while I put the kids to bed or whatever? And you be like, no, run your own bath water. You know what I'm saying? Because now you mad still from earlier, me dismissing you when you requested something of me. And now here you go, blank, like you pointing fingers back and you like, well, you did it, so I'm doing it. Hey. Two wrongs don't make a right. And again, I'm not excusing the initial bad behavior, right? Because again, we are adults. We should be able to regulate our emotions and our feelings. We don't have to come in hot because somebody at work then piss you off. Now here you come bringing it to your man and or woman, and you putting it off on them, and that ain't fair. Start that night, then we go into the next day, and it rolls over to the next day, and it rolls over to the next day. And y'all could have just squashed it if y'all knew how to effectively communicate and say, hey, I didn't mean no harm earlier, or apologize. You know what? I was wrong for dismissing you earlier. I was just in a mood. This was what happened. Please forgive me. Charge to my head, not to my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, just talk. Okay, cool. I understand that. Whatever. I'm sorry, too, for throwing that back in your face and pointing fingers at you like you did it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that could be squashed instead of days and days and days on. Y'all just going back and forth, back and forth. That ain't cool. Hey, good fella, how you doing?
Hey, and your point is a great point because see, when you mature, you begin to understand that even no matter where we are in our relationship, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
have hardships. We're going to deal with things that are going to try to come against us. But as I
Yes.
often say, people have to understand your good communication should let you see that the problem is the problem. The person is not the problem. So if
Yes.
we can deal with the problem, no
Yes.
matter, so when somebody comes back to us later on, it ain't no problem to rub somebody's back or to rub somebody's feet because you've let that situation go because
Yep.
you've dealt with the problem, and now loving on your person becomes
Mm-hmm.
easy. But when you got bad communication, you always looking at the person, like you said, you're trying to point fingers. Well, you did this and you did that. You're right, I did it. So what we gonna do about it? We're gonna keep talking about it, or we're gonna deal with it.
Exactly. I can be vulnerable and transparent with you all. I used to play the blame game a lot in my marriage, right? And I think because I really truly through my rose colored lenses thought I was being an amazing wife. Okay. I thought I was crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and whatever I wasn't doing, I was always trying to make sure that I was doing right. And so when one situation happened and it caused an adverse effect on something in our life, right? And I was so angry and so saddened by that because I essentially blamed him and said, "This is your fault because had you done what you were supposed to do, then we wouldn't be in this situation, right? Because I've done my part. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain, and now we're dealing with this, and I got to deal." I can only imagine, not only imagine, I know exactly how that made him feel in that moment, right? But because I'm so angry, and instead of looking at the problem of mismanagement of funds, okay,
Hmm.
instead of looking at that as the problem, I decided to point the finger at him and blame him for it. Had you done more, had you stood here, had you done this, and I know that was soul crushing. I know that probably, you know what I'm saying, broke him to his core. Like, you doing this to me and saying this to me. But in that moment of me doing that, because I'm high on my emotion, I'm angry and I'm feeling some type of way, I couldn't see past that. That's all. I'm
Hmm.
just focused on how I feel and what has transpired and how it's making me feel, opposed to looking at it from your perspective and looking at it as, okay, we're a unit first and foremost. And if one of my teammates is down, we both down, right? This ain't
Right,
this
right.
ain't a you problem. This was a us problem. and we both contributed to this problem. But no, it made me feel better in that moment. No, I'm gonna blame you because you could have did more, because you wanted to be the leader of this family, because you know what I'm saying? And that's not
Right.
cool. That's not cool. And I know a lot of us do that within our relationships. But you can't blame each other. Like you said, focus on the problem. We need to do better at communicating when it comes to things like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Leah, bring my water bottle. Thank you. Another don't on this list. Thank you so much, mommy. Appreciate you. Thank you, baby. The last don't I have on this list, and Goodfella, please feel free to add another one if you think of one. Another don't I have on this list is, hey, I need you to sit down. Don't stand over her like that while you're talking to her. Sit. Okay, sit down and talk to her. See what I'm saying? Communication. When you standing over somebody, and this kind of feed into that. That's so funny. Forms of abuse or toxic behavior that is learned. When you stand over somebody and talking down to them or whatever, that's a form of intimidation. That doesn't make a person feel safe. That makes them feel like, and you like trying to make yourself bigger or whatever. You know what you're doing when you're talking down to somebody sitting down. That's why you have to, if I'm going to communicate with somebody, I would like to communicate with them at eye level. T-Rain and Micah, enough. You have to meet them at eye level and see where they are and speak to them there. I don't ever want you talking over me and me looking up to you. That makes me feel some type of way. I know it makes other people feel some type of way, especially children. So we want to be very careful about that, right? But any forms of abuse or toxic behavior, baby, it's a no-go. And I mean, forms of
Hmm.
abuse, verbal abuse is abuse. I want to be very clear. Somebody calling you out your name or demeaning you at every turn. How stupid can you be? You know that pillow go over there. Why would you put it over there? You just stupid. That's just dumb. And consistently doing that, like, that's not normal communication. That is not okay. It's not okay. And even if they're not cursing at you, it's still the demeanor behavior of making you feel less than or minute. That is not cool. Good fella, you want to say something?
Now there is a don't that when it comes to communication that I think is very very key. And my don't is don't assume someone else's emotions. Don't assume that
Yes.
someone is going to feel a certain way about something that you're going to say, which you may say, well, you were going to do this and that, so it wasn't no point in me saying it. No, that's absolutely wrong. You
Yes.
say what you need to say and communicate what you need to communicate and let someone else express their particular emotions that they're going to feel. It's not your job to
Yes.
assume their emotion. Let them express their emotions, but you take on your responsibility of speaking your truth and express whatever it is that you need to express and allow them to communicate back to you what they
Yes.
choose to communicate.
Yes. 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 Indeed. Indeed. And that kind of goes into my dues list. Um, it's the act of listening. That's one of the do's in communication. If you're unsure of how to communicate, active listening is one of the tools or skills that you need. Active listening means paying close attention to who you are communicating with by engaging, asking questions, and rephrasing them. Okay? So if you're unsure about what they're saying, instead of assuming, like Goodfella said, how they feel or how they may take something or whatever, you can just ask questions and actively listen and get to understand what they mean or how they feel or whatever, whatever, whatever. But I mean, when you assume, we all know that saying, right? Uh, and 9 times out of 10, the person probably ain't even feeling that. They probably be like, "Oh
Exactly.
no, I wasn't gonna say that. I'm fine with that." And you be like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna have a problem with that. You over here worry, wart, raise your blood pressure, stressing out about something that ain't even necessarily true. And all you have to do is ask a question and actively listen and understand how they feel.
Mhm.
Just that
Yep.
simple.
Now, Portia, listen, I gotta run upstairs and deal with my client. But if you're still
No
here when I get
problem.
back,
Thank you
I'm gonna
so
come back.
much. Thank
Okay?
you so much for
I'll be
joining me.
all right.
Bye
All right.
bye. Another do on the list is respect. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. Period. Okay. Respect. I read this book a couple of years ago called Love and Respect. And it basically, the author, it was a Christian based book, and the author was basically speaking towards how a man was commanded to love a woman, right? Man was commanded to love the woman, and the woman was commanded to respect the man, right? And that's a running theme in our life since the biblical days. We all want, women want to be loved and men wants respect. I'm not saying, and that author neither was saying that they don't want the opposites of the things as well. We both want love and respect, but I think it's the degree, or I don't know how to say it, like the leveling of it, right? A man values, it's the value system of it. The man values respect, and if you love me, you would respect me, right? And a woman, obviously, if you love me, you will respect me, the same thing, right? But anyways, respect above all else. If you come into a communication with anybody, if you respect them, you will 9 times out of 10 speak with them in a loving manner or in the best communicative way, right? And I always use this reference for myself, right? Most of us have work jobs and had bosses and things like that were trash human beings. They were trash towards their employees, and even if they didn't do it directly to you, they may have done it to someone else on your team, and that made you feel some type of way, or that made you view them a certain type of way, things like that, right? So for me, I always look at it like, when I go sit into meetings with my bosses and things like that, I don't raise my voice. I don't snap off on them. I don't act a fool with them, even if I do feel some type of way about what they're telling me or whatever, right? But I give them the utmost respect because that's my boss. And I want to keep my job. And I want to be able to keep getting this check, right? So I take whatever they're saying, and even if I voice how I feel, I have gathered myself enough, or even if it's something that just catch me off guard most times, if they call you in the office or something like that, I know I can't take it to this level with this person that I normally would with a normal person, right? Because this is my boss. They sign my checks. So I'm going to come in there and act like I got some sense, right? So you telling me, oh, Portia, we docking your pay because of this, and that. I'm not like, wait, first of all, you already knew this, and that, da-da-da. I'm like, okay, you know what? I hear what you're saying, and give my this and that happen, whatever, but I understand if you have to do what you have to do. It's very respectful, very understanding. And even if I don't understand, I know how to conduct myself in that moment, right? Why can I give my boss that type of energy when I can't even give my own mother that same type of energy? Or I can't give my spouse that same type of respect, right? It's instant defensiveness. It's instant taking offense. It's instant, I have a problem, whatever. But even if you do have a problem, it's the lack of respect within that moment for me. But if I can respect this person who I don't know from nothing, and even the same thing with pastors and stuff, people in leadership. I don't know. If we can respect these people, and your pastor can't do nothing to you but sit you down or whatever. Like, they can't do nothing to you. You didn't even get no paycheck for that. And you respect them more than you respect your children or your spouse or whomever. Like, if we could do it over there, we could do it over here. Apply that same mindset is the point. So respect is a huge way to communicate with somebody effectively. If you respect them, you will do your best to not disrespect them. Period. Okay? The next do is empathy. Okay? Do have empathy when you're in conversation with people. It's like, again, having that mindset or those glasses on of I'm looking at this from a different lens. I don't have to sympathize with you all the time, but I can empathize with you. I can have an understanding. That's a form of grace that I'm giving you because you're going through this and you're feeling this type of way or that type of way. I can extend this grace. I can give you this empathy and be like, yeah, I get that. I've been there. I am there. Even though we're talking about you in this moment, and this is happening all internally. I am where you are. I get exactly how you feel. I hear you. I can understand. Yesterday when you did that made me feel that way. I totally hear you. I understand. Like, we have to be more empathetic towards each other and feel somebody's heart. You have to know the difference. Again, there go that discernment. Knowing the difference between somebody trying to manipulate you or misuse you or abuse you, and know that they are being genuine and you can empathize with what they're saying, right? And so another thing we can do is, I spoke on this earlier about volume and clarity. All right. Y'all know your girl talk real loud. And it's when I'm excited, like when I'm passionate about something, when I'm angry, when I'm like always up here, like I just speak in soprano. I'm sorry. But that when you are trying to convey something to somebody, especially if it's something very sensitive, right? You want to make sure, hi Kia Bia, what up? That's Chia part of the village, period. When you do speak to someone, you want to make sure that your volume is respectable and it's not coming from a frightening standpoint or a yelling or trying to overtalk standpoint, right? And that you're being very clear and concise in how you're communicating, right? I think that's true too. Not that you don't want to be passive aggressive in your behavior. You don't want to be any of those things. You want to be understood by what you're saying. But again, meeting people where they are, right? Me and my STBX was together actively for like 7 years or so, 7.5 years or whatever. And for he's known that I spoke loudly like all since the beginning and whatever. And but it was always an issue for him because he wasn't used to that, right? But instead of me adjusting all the time, I'd be like, look, this is how I talk. You already know it. Like, I don't know what else you want me to do or whatever. But if somebody is communicating to you, hey, I don't know how to respond or receive you talking to me at this volume, you know what I'm saying? I'm not able to hear anything you're saying because all I'm paying attention to or focusing on is the volume in which you are saying it. So if somebody is communicating that to you, you can't have the stance of, well, this is me. That's, you knew that was me. I don't care. Blah, blah, blah. No. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to drop that down and I'm going to come to your level where it's comfortable for you to be able to understand me and get clarity. Okay. And if this volume is more comfortable for you to hear me tell you, you made me upset because you didn't do what I asked you to do and that then I'm going to do that. Because you're letting me know where you are. And some other people, when I talk to them and I be up there and I be like, listen, girl, and I listen, you know, and this made me feel this way. And I just, and then they be like, oh, I hear you, girl. You know what I'm saying? Some people have a problem with it, some people don't. But you cannot be just like, and that goes to a word we used earlier today on live, adaptable. You have to be adaptable to the people that you're engaging in conversation with or communication with, right? Hey, Legendary, thank you so much, love. Appreciate you. You have to be cognizant of that. Like, you cannot just be like, this is how I'm going to be across the board. You don't be like that across the board. Because like I said, when you go here or go there, you don't do that. When you're in front of this person, you don't do that. So let's be clear about how we're presenting, thank you, boo, and how we're, you know, showing up. in communicating with people, okay? Another one was sharing feedback. This is another do. So remember, I already talked about active listening, paying close attention to who you are communicating with by engaging, asking questions, and rephrasing them, right? So in the midst of that, you want to share your feedback. This is all in love and respect, having empathy, all of the things, right? And your shared feedback should be genuine. It should be honest. It should be open and done in love. And again, I want to be clear, we should not be communicating in any of the don'ts list that we listed above. There should not be no gaslighting, coercion, pointing fingers, none of that. No forms of abuse, okay? We want to give our feedback and it be done in love and they understand, okay, I've heard everything you said. I feel what you're telling me, and this is what my takeaway is. And they can tell you and correct you if that takeaway is not right? Well, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. And the more we communicate with each other and learn each other's communication styles, we will be able to understand each other much more clearly, okay? And now you corrected me because you shared your feedback with me. Now I can take that and be like, okay, I understand. That's not what you meant now. Okay, when you initially said it, it came to me this way. And that could be your traumas, your past hurt, your past whatever, that it came to you that way. But that person didn't intentionally mean to hurt you or make you feel that type of way. But this is why I keep saying it. I don't know why this has been so heavy on me lately. It's the focusing and looking at the bigger picture opposed to just one tunnel way of looking at something. You have to look at all of the things that's surrounding it instead of the one, because that one may lead you astray. That one may talk you out of a good situation. That one may push you over the ledge with something, and that wasn't even the intention. And that person like, that's not what I meant. And all you had to do was ask questions or get proper feedback or anything so that you could be clear on what they were saying, right? So yeah, the last do that I have on this list is when you're communicating with somebody, use I statements when expressing your feelings, okay? I don't want to hear, well, when you did this and when you did that, I just knew and I felt like you was doing this or whatever. Like, well, that was using an I statement. I think I'm so used to it now. Listen, I'm trying to think of one to use. When you're expressing your feelings, you made me feel like, okay, my kids made me bring it back in because they do it all the time. Okay. Well, she made me angry. Nobody can make you angry, baby. Nobody. Anger is a chosen feeling and emotion that you are choosing to operate in this moment. They didn't make you angry. You chose to get upset and bothered by and go high in your emotions at this particular time because of something that they said or something that they did. But they didn't make you angry. And instead of you saying, she made me angry, you should be saying, I feel very angry right now. And be able to express why you made me feel why I feel very angry right now. When you did this, it made me feel this type of way. When you did this, it reminded me of something else that I've been through, and therefore it made me now feel unsafe. Thank you so much, Sky Bear. It made me feel like, you know what I'm saying? Be very intentional about how you feel and using the I statement so that the person that you're communicating with won't feel like, again, you're pointing fingers and blaming them for how you felt or how you took it. It's like, well, I got a better understanding because when you come to me talking about you made me feel like you didn't care. And I'm like, how did I make you feel like I didn't care? Just because I handed you the plate like this? And I didn't look at you when I did it? What are we talking about? Instead of saying, you know what? Portia, when you handed me that plate like that, I felt like you were dismissing me. And that made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel invisible. Now I have a better understanding of what you're trying to convey to me. Because when you just simply say the other one, I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm over here in La La Land when I handed you the plate anyway. And you over there feeling some type of way. And then it took a whole nother turn of emotions and feelings from something that was so simple. Right? We have to be intentional. Thank you, Sky. Right? And we have to be intentional about our communication. Okay? Because if we properly communicate, we will be better off. But if we continue to miscommunicate, it will always and forever be a failure to communicate. And you always be like, I just don't understand why they don't understand me. But you don't even understand you most times. And if a person isn't understanding you, they ain't the person that needs to be within your orbit. They don't need to be within your space. They don't need to be the person you communicating with, because clearly they need to figure out what's up with their communication style that they can't understand anything you ever say. Or do they understand what you're saying? They manipulate you like, or gaslighting you like, oh, you crazy, whatever. You don't ever make no sense about nothing. Oh, that's just how they are, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's not the person for you, because they're not willing to learn how to properly communicate with you or effectively communicate with you. And I ain't got time for that. Anybody got time for that? It's a no for me, dog. So that was the last on my do's and don'ts list. I want to encourage you all that effective communication is the process, if you're unsure of what it is, it's the process of exchanging ideas, thoughts, and opinions, knowledge, and data so that the message is received and understood with clarity and purpose. That's what effective communication is. I'm going to say it one more time for those in the back. Effective communication is the process of exchanging ideas, thoughts, opinions, knowledge, and data so that the message is received and understood with clarity and purpose. When we effectively communicate, both the sender and the receiver feel satisfied. That's what communication should feel like. I should feel satisfied when I leave a communication with somebody. I should feel like, okay, I put my thoughts on the table. I was able to say this and say that or whatever and put it all out there, and leave it there. And I should feel satisfied with your response I should feel satisfied about how I put it there, being the sender. And when you respond to me, I should feel satisfied with your response if we are effectively communicating. But if you feel dissatisfied within a communication or at the end of a communication, maybe it wasn't done effectively. And y'all need to go back, and it's okay to be able to go back and rewind or, bring it back to the table. Like, hey, when we talked about that earlier, or when we talked about that the other day, I really wasn't settled with that, and I didn't feel really good about it at the end of the day. And so I want to talk about it again so we can get clarity, right? And so now you feel more satisfied with the conversation after. And if that takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, baby, do what you need to do, because the end goal is to reprogram ourselves and to be able to become an effective communicator. Okay? So I got to get up out of here because I got things to do per usual. But before I leave you, I will leave you as I always do with my Speak Life affirmation. Again, this was episode number 18 of Life Be Life and Podcast, which is on YT and all the podcast streaming platforms. You can go check out this episode. It's a failure to communicate, episode number 18. And it's a really good episode. It's a really good episode. And I appreciate all the subscribers on YT, all of my subscribers here on TikTok. I appreciate you guys pouring into my purpose and helping me fulfill it, okay? And I hope that you're getting something out of these lives and podcast messages just as much as I am, because I'm only speaking from a place that I am in or currently has been in and what I have learned from those places. Thank you so much, Blossom. Love you. So I'm going to leave you with my Speak Life affirmation from this episode. Today's Speak Life affirmation is, I forgive myself for all of my failures. Again, today's Speak Life affirmation is, I forgive myself for all of my failures. You heard it, you say it, you write it down, and remind yourself to speak that thing and make it happen, because life be life in us all. Don't be out here failing to communicate. You got the tools now. Utilize them. Be great. Be blessed. I love you all. Thank you so much, Kia Bia. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I will see y'all next Tuesday.